Welcome to one of the most famous borders in the world. Everybody knows that India and Pakistan are not huge friends, but today we're gonna try to cross this border here and also find out what do people on both sides of the border think of each other. Our mission today to understand the differences between the two neighboring countries takes place in a very intriguing part of the world. The distance separating the two cities we will visit in this video is in no means long. To be exact, it's about 60 kilometers or 36 miles. But the changes in culture, food and religion that occur in such short way are really quite remarkable. Our journey starts on the Pakistan side of the border, in a city called Lahore. With more than 10 million inhabitants, it's a true metropole. The streets of this city are vibrant and full of life. Yet it also offers tranquility and aesthetic beauty in its historic center, called the Walled City. But as Lahore was just the starting point of our journey, and it's quite hard to point out differences in culture by only seeing one side, it was time for us to get on with our mission and ask local Pakistanis.
Since Pakistan and India don't have very good relations, what do you think about India?
India is a diverse country, very beautiful. Actually, we have same history, we have same culture, same language. In our opinion, our relation with them must be good.
Actually, before partition, before 1947,
Yes.
it was all one country.
So you feel like you're brothers?
Yes, we don't hate the Indians. We have almost same culture.
Surprisingly, the feedback was utterly positive and not at all what we had read on the news. When this was done, we continued towards the notorious Wagah border.
A good day to cross borders.
Due to bad relations between India and Pakistan, this border remains closed for most locals, and so the road heading there was quite empty. It was more like a quiet drive in a countryside than a highway leading to one of the most famous borders in the world. Although Liisu was quite anxious to cross yet another border,
Anxiety!
I remember thinking to myself, what would happen if those cows knew how different their life would be just 10 kilometers away on the other side of the border. Cows everywhere, I think we're getting closer to India. But more of this topic later, when we start comparing the food and culture of those two neighbors. As we got to the border, the things were much more relaxed than we thought. We had read about the rivalry in this border point, but for us tourists, it was all quite simple. We got stamped out of Pakistan in about 30 minutes and then drove into a place that looked more like a sports arena than a border crossing. But as we would later find out, this arena is used every night for one of the most unique ceremonies in the world. Yet in the daytime, it felt like an empty stadium. We took a few pictures with the border guards and then the anticipated moment. We crossed from Pakistan to India by land. It's quite weird how special it felt crossing this imaginary line. We are now in India. That only exists in our heads. But it sure felt nice to enter the 50th country I have ever been to.
We're in India!
Namaste, bitches! After about 1 hour of following a bicycle around government buildings and doing paperwork, we were all settled in, and officially our journey in India could begin. Our plan was simple. Since we really wanted to be a part of the evening ceremony, we had about half a day to discover Amritsar, the first biggest city on Indian side of the border. Once we entered this place, we suddenly realized that although we had only moved about 60 kilometers on the map, then quite a few things were different here. It's absolutely crazy here. The first thing we noticed was something that many tourists never get to experience firsthand. But as we are traveling with our own vehicle, there is no way around it. If you've seen our previous videos, you already know that traffic in Pakistan can be quite hectic. In bigger cities, there is barely room to move. Have you ever heard of double barking? Well, this is triple barking. And the car horn is one of the most essential elements of driving. Well, as it turns out, in India, traffic works pretty much the same. The roads are full of motorbikes and tuk-tuks, and the honking is just as popular as on the other side of the border. Believe it or not, but signs don't have a lot of authority here. Yet there is one huge difference here, and this difference is animals. Most common of the following are cows. Cows in India are a gift from the gods. And if they wander onto the road, then nobody is going to chase them away. And moreover, honking at the cow is considered disrespectful. So if there's a cow on the road, it is usually the most quiet place on the street. But of course, cows are not the only animals who want to use the roads here. So it's also quite common to see camels or even elephants being part of the traffic and the flow of cars. So no wonder that India is said to have the most intense traffic in the world. Here you truly have to be alert all the time. I can't believe my eyes, that's the first day in India. But of course the fact that animals use roads in India is not the only difference between the two neighbors. Are you trying on clothes? And the next thing we noticed is also the reason why there's a border between those two countries today. In 1947, when British colonial empire was falling apart and India and Pakistan gained their independence, they decided to split the countries according to the religion. And to this day, it is the biggest difference between those two nations. When spending time in the Islamic Republic, you quickly get used to the sight of beautiful mosques. And the sound of the prayer call becomes a part of your everyday routine. Yet the main religion in India is Hinduism, and in our close observation, it feels more like a ceremonial way of living than a religion as we know it. Instead of written rules and commands, they focus more on taking care of nature and other living organisms. And compared to the one God in Islam, Hindus have hundreds, if not thousands of them. And well, there was one part of the religion that Liisu especially enjoyed here. In holy places, she wasn't anymore the only one who had to cover her hair.
Oh, how the tables have turned and Liisu is happy.
And I just have to add that as a foreign tourist, it felt quite special to visit holy places of both those faiths, and the pure and meditative atmosphere was present in both Islamic mosques and Hindu temples. After discovering the beauty of Amritsar for another hour or so, we realized that due to the influence from religion, there was another thing separating these countries. Although for a newcomer, it might be hard to distinguish between Indian and Pakistan food due to the generous amount of spices that tend to give the food a generally burning taste. It's quite spicy. Oh, that was potent. Then on a closer look, there is one big difference in a way they eat. Pakistani really love adding meat to everything. If possible, they eat meat for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Meat in soups, sauces and even rice. Some of them even jokingly said that the reason why they had to split from India after the British left was the simple fact that they wanted to eat beef and so needed their own country. And this is the exact reason why I wondered if those cows know about life on the Indian side of the border. This little boy just brought bananas for the cow. That was really sweet.
I think it's part of some religious ritual or something that you feed the god because the cows are like gods.
Due to their holy status, killing cows in India is illegal and can be punishable by a few years of jail time. But even eating other animals like chickens and lamb is not an everyday thing for most people. And to demonstrate it even better, the normal supermarkets are not allowed to sell meat here. It's cool that people don't eat meat, but I guess it would be nice to be able to access it for those who actually want it. And finding a meat store often feels like buying something illegal in shady side streets. It's not here. Only took us 30 minutes of driving and 20 minutes of looking for the shop. Hooray! Indian cuisine is much more plant-based. And surprisingly, about 350 million people in this country are vegetarians. By the time we had filled our bellies with tasty Indian foods, evening had arrived, and it was once again time to head back to the border for the famous ceremony. Before heading back, we of course found some locals again and asked their opinions about their neighbors. What do you think about Pakistan and Pakistani people?
I think Pakistani people and Indian people, good combination, both sides.
So see, everyone is human overall. Like there is a perception which people have, but everyone is not bad, not good as well. So it depends upon people to people.
Yes.
And so as India is there, Pakistan is also there.
Yeah.
So we should, there is no distinction or something of that type.
As we arrived at the stadium, we were shocked. The line to this event looked extremely long. We did not expect this from a simple border closing ceremony. But little did we know, there was nothing simple about the whole thing. We arrived early, and right before our eyes, the stadium started filling up with people. About 5 minutes later and the stadium is just filling up. And then about 30 minutes later, there was 10,000 spectators ready to be part of the ceremony. And then the show began. On Indian side, it started by this guy, warming up the audience. We yelled out slogans like Hindustan Zindabad, meaning long live India. And soon it got clear to me that all of those things were aimed directly at the other side. Since the languages spoken on both sides of the border are quite similar, they can understand each other. So the first 15 minutes of the event felt like a yelling contest, trying to look fierce by shouting over the fence. I couldn't help but think I had seen such things before. For the second part of the ceremony, all women were suddenly called from sidelines to the center of attention. First, they carried Indian flags and waved them in proud and provocative manner. After that, suddenly the music was turned on, and the whole arena turned into a celebration of womanhood. I remember thinking to myself how clever it was of the Indians to use their greatest weapon to show off their neighbors. But once I looked at Liisu, I realized that there was so much more to it. Her eyes were almost teared with happiness. And then it hit me. While driving through Islamic countries for the last 4 months, not even once had we seen women dancing like this. And yes, besides religion, the second biggest difference we noticed between India and Pakistan was the role of women in the society. In Pakistan, women tend to stay home, and if they do go outside, then they always cover their hair in Islamic tradition. Yet in India, women's role in the society is equal to men's. And quite ironically, in this part of the country, men are the ones that cover their hair. After the dancing was done, women gave their space to the armed border forces, and last part of the ceremony was between soldiers of the two countries. This here felt like true rivalry. It was even sort of funny to see the soldiers march in such a manner, trying to show the other side to their place, yelling at each other, doing faces, like some sort of a game. If you ever grew up with a sibling, then you know exactly how such rivalry goes. Finally, the ceremony was ended with lowering the flags on both sides and closing the border gate until the next morning. The ceremony felt like a beautiful mix of trying to celebrate the friendship between two nations, yet at the same time trying to show off the other side. But one thing is for sure, after hearing out local people and seeing life on both sides of the border.
So see, everyone is human overall. There is no distinction or something of that type.
We realized that these nations are deep down truly brothers. Yes, sometimes it may seem that religion and politics work so hard to make us focus on our differences and make us believe that the people living behind the imaginary borders are not like us. But what we learned from locals in both India and Pakistan was clear. It doesn't matter what you believe in or where you are from, because there is one thing even bigger than your country or religion, an experience that connects us all. And this thing is called humanity. Friends, this was our adventure from the Indian-Pakistan border. And we really hope that you enjoyed the journey, because next time we want to bring you along to one of the world's craziest festivals and show you what does playing Holi actually mean. Until then, make sure to check out the playlist with all of our videos from Europe to India so far. And we will see you next Thursday in a little bit less than a week. Bye.